cool, that's good. You know, I've got 2 applications now, I've got a bit of a taste for it, but I had to pay people for it. Maybe I'd like to do it free. And sure enough, there's an even easier route than that. This is a website called AppMaker. Now, there's a number of schools getting on board with this program at the moment. It's drag and drop app building. Not just for the iPhone, but for all the mobile platforms that are out there. Basically, you drag in everything that you want, podcasts, images, website links, and so on, and it produces an application for you. Then it gives you the step-by-step instructions of how you submit it. It's really, really amazing. If you have a look at what I produced, this is our Year 12 PE application. So my students in my class in Year 12 have their own application for the subject that they have and take with them everywhere. Now, there's 10,000 kids in the subject, and up to this point in time, I've had about 4,000 downloads of the application. It's 100% free. And it basically just has links to the class podcast, to the class website, and a few other little bits and pieces in there. So that took me 2 minutes to make that, dragging the pieces together, and now I've accessed and tapped into the fact that my students travel about half an hour a day, and they're doing most of their learning now through this mobile device, which has me basically recording my teaching. So it's out there. There's lots of tools that allow you to do it, and as I said, it took 2 minutes to produce that. Much longer to sort of work out what I wanted to put in it, rather than actually make it and produce the content that went with it. There's the downloads for the week of September 13 for that particular app. You can see downloads. I've only got 14 kids in my class. So the rest of them are students from across the state downloading the application and benefiting each other. Hopefully all having the same experience of being able to be mobile and learning at the same time. Now this is one that I've started using recently. It's the same thing. It's 100% free. I should mention that. Free to develop those apps. This is BuzzTouch, and you can use it to develop an application that's like a learning management system. So you've probably got something like that at school, where you pull down worksheets and PowerPoints and so on. This is that, basically in an application form. You produce one, and you can change it as simple as that by going to the BuzzTouch website, adding your documents in, and it automatically updates on the student's device, wherever they are, or the class set of devices. So you can actually effectively have, a lot of schools are starting to use, there's actually a school in Western Australia, I'm not sure what it is, but they've got a school BuzzTouch app that has their school newsletter, that has their event lists and all that sort of stuff. And all it takes is someone to be at their desk and basically log on to the BuzzTouch website, add the document, and everyone who has a device gets a copy of it on their phone. So really cool, new age way to communicate with families and so on. And it's not just available again for the iPhone, it's available for all phones, and even just as a web application on the internet. Mobile in action, very cool. This is 2 applications that I've made using BuzzTouch. One of them now on the left-hand side is VCEP Study, and through that same program you can do questions. So the students pick their area of study, and they've got multiple choice questions that automatically generate, and they can basically do their revision on their device. Fitness tests, that's another application that I've produced that has just a list of fitness tests that kids can do. So they don't have to use a textbook site, so they're mobile, outdoors and active. So they're within the realm of myself, who has no idea how to do those things. You saw evidence of that before. But the BuzzTouch system definitely makes it a possibility. So we get to the important part, classroom use. Now I'm going to go through a heap of different experiences that I've had surrounding using mobile devices that you can hopefully tap into and maybe get some inspiration that you can use in your classes. Swiss Army knife. Now I think it's pretty clear that today's mobile devices are like Swiss Army knives in many ways. They can do pretty much anything. And I'll start by looking at images. Now images are pretty much capable on every single phone. We've looked at that. My first phone used to take images, you could barely see it when you took it because it was so grainy and so on. But you know, the capacity was there. Now my students a couple of years ago, they used a class iPod, one iPod, and they did a peace quilt activity. Now these are kids that come out of the normal French class that we have, because their literacy and so on is so low that they just spend time doing stuff to get their levels up and their skills up in the area. So I was working with these kids. There's only 4 of them who got taken out. They were called the Fantastic Four by the teachers for many reasons. But they, on this particular day, there was actually a fight trying to get one of these pictures sorted between the 2 of them. So the whole idea of the Peace Quilt was to share pictures of you, your students, involved in peaceful action. So we particularly broke that when they broke out into a fight, but then they actually had to come together and they were peaceful. So these are pictures that we shared, and as soon as they were taken, the students posted them to the online space where everyone from the world was involved in that particular Peace Quilt. Now I think, for these kids it was a really, really positive thing. And I basically stood back while they thought of, well, what rectifies peace and so on. And the good thing was, it was all done there and there, in the moment, because of the mobile device. Didn't have to go back into a room and lose the continuity. It was instant. Now we've got some Year 12 students who are involved in the 365-day project. I tried to do it, but didn't have the discipline. Basically what you do is you take one picture every day, and you share it. At the end of the year, you've got 365 pictures that tell a bit of a story about what you were doing on that day. I lasted 20 days. I don't know why, just too busy, but there's some Year 12 art students that are doing it, and they're doing it really well, taking just some pictures of life and applying their art techniques, and they're doing that 5 days when they're at school. They come and they get the class device, and they're doing that either at home with their own devices, and they're posting them online. So really interesting, and there's so many people around the world who are doing this 365-day project. There might be some people in the room perhaps. Now audio is something that, being an outdoor PE teacher, outdoor ed teacher, I'm really fascinated about the uses of it in the classroom. I think that being able to record something and then sharing that with the students is really powerful. Like a podcast, for example. The students listening to that and creating podcasts is a really powerful thing. Now, the application that my students have been using, that's available on most mobile devices, is called Audio Boo. Now, this is basically 5 minutes of recording. You hit the device, you've got 5 minutes to say what you want to say, so it forces kids to be really concise and clear and succinct, and then they share that with each other. Now, in the classroom at the moment, we've been using it to create, each kid gets a chapter or like a particular topic that they need to summarise in 5 minutes. And even if it's a mathematical concept, you can try and summarise that in 5 minutes via verbal. Then you're probably going to understand it when you actually do it in real life. Like if you actually do it, you can explain it, and you probably know it. So having kids work in that higher order thinking by creating something like an audio podcast is a really powerful tool. And now it's really accessible. You can do it anywhere. We were using this on a camp, and the kids were just taking little audio notes while they were away. Again, we only had one device. I had lugging around the class iPad, and the kids were taking in turns to do this audio recording, as a community. So they didn't need to have their own devices. So in a primary school, obviously, there's not many kids who walk around with iPhones and all that sort of thing. It's a bit of a fallacy. But if you have one device as a school that's accessible and mobile, these are the sort of things that you can start to do. Even taking turns and so on, which is a powerful thing to learn. Phone casting. Now this is something that the very first thing I ever did with mobile tools. Basically a phone cast is where you ring up on your phone, and that is broadcast to people who might be listening on the internet. Now there's there's an app called iPatio, and there used to be a phone number that you used to ring up on a website called Utterly, and basically you speak into it and you say what you're doing and whatever, and that's recorded and put it on the internet. Now we used it on our website, bceoes.wordpress.com, and as we're walking through the Grampians, has anyone been to the Grampians in Victoria before? Yeah, a few people, really amazing place. As we were doing that, the students were making recordings of where they were by simply ringing up that number on their phone. So, and the recordings would come down and they get posted onto the internet, and we went back later on and we checked it. So it became a really powerful experience, and they were prompted with questions about what was happening in our unit at that time, and they were leaving their verbal answers, which meant we didn't have to take any mobile tools with us. At the same time, they were sharing each other's ideas, and they were sitting together and and using the one phone to talk about concepts that they were seeing around them. So these things are all possible now. Really, really possible to record everything you do in a mobile experience. Now, video production.